Back in February of 2020, I was in a meeting in Columbus. I sit on the executive committee of the Alliance for High Quality Education, and during that meeting, the superintendents that are involved at the national level started to talk about, did you hear about this coronavirus? And it was the first time I had even heard the term coronavirus. I'm Kathy Powers, I'm the superintendent here in the district, and I've been here 10 years. Moving forward, it was 3 or 4 weeks thereafter that Governor DeWine virtually closed the state because of the pandemic. In the life of a school district, 3 weeks is not very long in length. And so to be able to pivot as quickly as we did in about 3 weeks after the first notice of the pandemic was actually pretty good.
It feels really weird being back. I spent 2nd and 3rd grade here.
No, there's no one here. Just custodians and us.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Good.
Yes, I can,
So my room is not very, it's kind of blah because we weren't allowed to bring a whole bunch of stuff with us. I remember it was a Thursday, and I was reading a story to my kids before they went home, and we got an email that said the kids won't be coming to school tomorrow, which was Friday the 13th, because they wanted the teachers to plan and pack up all the students' stuff, and then the parents were going to pick it up on Monday the 16th. So that's the point where we realized, this is real. So that was hard, knowing that Thursday when I sent them home was really the last time I saw my kids in person. We never saw them again. And it took us a little bit of a transition to figure out how to be virtual. But once they figured it out, they took off with it. I will honestly say, if you asked me last year at this point, not at this point maybe, but if you would have asked me when this school year was starting, I would have never guessed it would have been as successful as it was.
Shortly after we pivoted out to remote learning in the spring of 20, we began the process of measuring our classrooms. Because 6-foot social distance was the standard at that point in time, it was really dependent upon where the door was, where the technology happened to be, where the teacher teaches from. And so we were able to measure each of those rooms and define how many students could fit the capacity of a classroom based on the 6-foot social distance. And also understanding the science behind what the pandemic was telling us. How do you keep kids safe? The sanitization. After considering all these various factors, we knew that doing school like we've always done school in campuses that we know are traditional to our school district wouldn't work.
Well, in the summertime, we had to pack up our classrooms completely and go through everything, and we were allowed to move 5 boxes here with us. And when you walked back in, it was so eerie. You walked back into the classroom you left on March 16th that you thought you'd be back in a couple of weeks, maybe a month. And now it's June and you're coming back in, and the date is still up in the corner of the board. It still said March 12th from the last time the kids were in there, and so a lot of that stuff was eerie, and the kids' name tags on the desk still, and it was a different time. It took me probably about 8 or 9 days to do it. As I was packing, I was also reminiscing, and and I understand why we had to do everything we had to do, but it didn't make it any easier. But it was very surreal to be packing up and, looking around. And I figured I wouldn't do that until I retired. So it was just something that was unexpected, and it was hard for me. I'm not gonna lie, I cried. My husband made fun of me.
I know you probably just see an empty classroom, but I see the place that I met lots of awesome kids and taught lots of awesome kids and loved lots of awesome kids. So it's more than a classroom to me, but I'm going to take all my love and ability and I'm going to take it elsewhere, wherever they put me. And I'm going to keep doing what I do for the kids.
But it was just a lot of trying to plan for something that we didn't really know what we were getting into. And we didn't even know if it was going to last. At the time, we didn't know if we'd be back for a week and then we'd be virtual because there were spikes in the, virus again. So it was just a lot of the unknown.
Yes, hi. Hey, hey.
Do you want me to see this?
Doing very good. How about yourself? Nice to see you. Oh, that is weird.
I liked being down there for drama, but now I'm not. But I think with the kids, they wanted something they could do because I mean, in all honesty, it's a very silent.
All of these new procedures needed to be introduced to the students so that when we hit the first official day of school, they were comfortable in coming back on campus because it looked a whole lot different. And then imagine being a third grader, they're about 9 or 10, you're going to Twinsburg High School for school. Huge campus, they had to get grounded, and that was the purpose of that soft reopening week, really to give them a chance to get their bearings before it was day one of, reading, writing, and arithmetic. Transitions are hard for some students, and especially for students. We have a number of kids who, they're called English language learners, so they come from homes where English is not the primary language. So imagine being dropped into a COVID environment and, just the ability to understand is one thing. And then we have students with disabilities. And for some students with disabilities, the routine of school helps to make it a successful environment for them. Well, we've just changed everything up. So we had to have some time for kids really to get grounded in a new place and understanding how school was going to be different this year. But what we do know is that we've learned a lot about the good behind the effort. And for example, the use of technology. We would never have been where we are today with the proficient use by our staff and by the students, but it forced us to begin to use and harness technology in a way that we would have never dreamt of.
When fall and this new school year kind of hit, take me through like those first few days, like the first days that everyone's back. So fall of 2020.
They only allowed a couple of kids to come back each day, and so we kind of did like some beginning of the year stuff with like small groups to reacclimate them to school because they hadn't been in school since March. And then unfortunately, because we were on semesters, we really did hit the ground running that very next day. So we had to get through a year's worth of curriculum by like the second week of January. So after that soft opening, we like moved. We found out we could not move as fast as we had thought we could. I worry about whether kids are lonely because of that. There's people struggling. There are definitely some students that are struggling. During lunch, I have my students, they stay in the classroom, they eat lunch, and they never say a word. They never talk, there's been a couple times I've tried playing music to try to at least get some noise going, and they've got their headphones in, so it's pretty clear that, it really is just sort of an annoyance, and it makes me sad.
One last question for you. Fast forwarding to present day, what has changed and improved since the beginning of this new year?
I think the comfort level of at the beginning of the year, it was make sure your mask is on, and they were good about it, but there was so much work, it was so stringent, and there was so much worry. And now I know they know what they're doing. They know to wash their hands, they know to sanitize when they walk in the room, they know to keep their distance, they know how to line up. So I think just the change has been just them growing up.
I feel like it's almost harder now. Like we're at the end of the first quarter, and I feel like I'm just now starting to actually have conversations with kids about stuff that's not class related. So I don't think what we're doing has changed a lot. I don't think I can think of very many positive changes. Like I wouldn't say it's easier now than it was at first. So I think it's harder now.
What do you think the lasting effects are going to be on the American education system due to this pandemic?
Well, I'm very worried because we do know in some instances students who have been learning virtually have not attended as well as they may have otherwise had they been on campus. We also know that the virtual piece is a struggle for some students, especially those who don't have a strong command on literacy. And so to rely on everything visual basically is difficult for some students. And so what we do know is that there's going to be a great need for intervention So all those things weigh heavily on students' social emotional well-being, and so as an organization, we have to continue to address those matters with our students. If you think of a team effort, there has never been one like this before. It's amazing.